Welcome to today's class. My name is Mr. Godfrey George, and I'll be your English tutor for this season. Today we're going to be talking about something very critical in grammar, and that is communication. As long as humans are alive, as long as we've evolved, we must communicate. In fact, there's a popular saying that man cannot not communicate, so we must communicate in every of our daily lives and all that we do. So today we'll be handling some basic communication skills, some skills that will help us as individuals, as students, as market women, as industrialists, as entrepreneurs to communicate. And let's go. English language, obviously. I'm talking about basic communication skills. So first, what is communication? What is communication? This is a very, very important question for us to answer first as we go ahead. What is communication? Because as we go on this class, we'll be hearing communication. So what is it? Communication is basically a way to express our thoughts, our desires, our ideas, our emotions in ways that are understandable to the audience or our listeners or readers. So let's say you're hungry and you have to tell somebody that you're hungry. How do you go about it? It could be either in speaking via the voice or using sign languages, but at some point we would have to communicate. Even children that are born today as toddlers, they have to communicate at some point as infants. They must communicate. Either they hold their stomach and they know that they are hungry, or they just start crying and you have to find out that they are hungry, or they want to pass out feces. But we must communicate. So number one, we find out that communication involves what? Expression. That's the first point. Expression. What do we express? Number one, we express ideas. In the world that we live in, there are many ideas, and as humans we have that right to express these ideas in clear terms. Even as a blind person, as a deaf person, a dumb person, we have ideas that can change the world, and as we know, ideas rule the world. So we express ideas. We can express emotions like what? Love, anger, etc. We express all these emotions in very clear terms. So communication helps us to express ideas, emotions, feelings. Most times people mistake emotions for feelings, but as we go ahead, we'll try to create a distinction, a difference between emotions and feelings. So we express our feelings at some point. We express the feeling, how we feel. Cold, do we feel cold? Do we feel hot at some point? Do we feel lukewarm? Do we feel unloved? We have to express all of these things. And the only tool we have is communication. We have to communicate ideas, emotions, feelings, and so on. We have to communicate. So in communication, we have some skills that will help us do this communication. We have skills, and these skills are basically four. So let's say we have four basic skills of communication. Yeah, four basic skills. We have listening, which is heavily contrasted with hearing. Listening, heavily contrasted with hearing. We have speaking. We have reading, and we have writing, which is the most advanced. So in communication, we have listening, we have speaking, we have reading, we have writing. Let's take, for instance, an infant that is born today, an infant born today. We find out that at some point, all they do is just listen. They don't make sound, they just are quiet and they keep quiet. They listen to what you're saying, because that's the first skill of acquiring a language, or of learning a language. How do you acquire that language? You acquire first by listening. That's why they say good listeners actually make good leaders. You find good people that listen very well. And it is heavily contrasted with hearing, because most times people say, I can hear you, but they're not listening. So that is like a very huge difference. Listening is more cognitive. That means it involves the mind, the brain, just the way you have ears. Just the way we have hearing. See, ear. It involves the ear. So as far as you have an ear, you can't avoid hearing. You can just be walking by the road and there's loud music might be playing and you just can't help it but hear it. But you might not be listening, but listening is more conscious. So listening is conscious. Listening is cognitive. Conscious because it involves the psyche. Most times in communication, we always talk about the psyche. What's the psyche? The psyche is the mind. The mind. And before one wants to communicate, all of those ideas, those thoughts, those idiosyncrasies, those philosophies emanate from our minds. So our psyche is always at play when we are listening. And listening is very important for us to acquire language. And we have speaking, we have reading, we have writing. But for today, we'll dwell mostly on listening and we'll rush down to writing because I want to follow it accordingly. So for listening, what is listening? Listening involves a conscious effort to quietly get thought patterns, from a speaker down to the minds of the listener. So for listening to occur, number one, we said that it must be conscious. That means the individual in question must be a conscious person and the person must have a brain. Obviously, that is cognitive, because when we talk about cognitive, we're talking about what? The brain ability for us to access meaning and meaning relation. In fact, why are we even communicating? We're communicating to get meaning. Because in the world of ours, we are always in search of meaning. We're always in search of meaning. I think there's a book by J.R. Firth that talks about the meaning of meaning. The meaning of meaning. I think it was co-authored by J.R. Firth and Malinowski. We have people like this. I think there's a book by The Meaning of Meaning. And here, it's like a quest. It's a quest for meaning. What really is meaning? That is why we communicate every day to make sense out of everything. Someone say, I am hungry. I am hungry. I am hungry. Stop. I am hungry. What are these? These are just symbols. These are symbols. This looks like a straight mark having two cups up and underneath. We have something that looks like this, something that looks like this, but somehow we tend to understand this because we have a knowledge of the language in question, which in this case is English. I am hungry. We have I am hungry. I am hungry. And when someone says this to you, I am hungry, it signals something in your mind. It signals something in your mind. You're like, yes, that means the thought pattern is what? Hunger. And what's the solution? Food and water. And all of this is possible because of the power of listening. If you don't carefully listen to what the person is saying, you will not get the meaning out of what the person is trying to pass across. I am hungry. Solution, which is meaning. The person wants to make sense out of all of this. So listening is very, very important in our communication. That is why, in fact, it is the most important. Listening is the most important skill of communication, because every other skill relies on listening. Because as a child, the child first learns how to listen. You must first learn how to listen so you can make sense of the entire workplace of everything that goes on. So listening is very important. But most times people mistake listening with hearing, and that's where the issue is. Whereas hearing is just a passive. Hearing is passive. Hearing is passive. What do you mean of passive? In passing. In passing. Unconscious. When someone says, I heard her in passing, that means I wasn't really paying attention to what the person was saying, but I think I heard some things. But when you're listening, you're not unconscious. You're not hearing things in passing. It is active. So whereas hearing is passive, listening is active. That means the listener must be what? Conscious. Must be conscious of everything in the environment. Number one, must be very conscious of the person speaking to you. So that means your eyes must be on that person, your ears must be active to get all the sound waves that comes from the person, and all of those things help us to make meaning. Remember that our aim, our major focus about communication is meaning. We must make meaning, because in the world we live in, without meaning, the world will be just meaningless. We just live in an empty space. So communication, the major basis for communication is to make meaning out of all of this. So listening, active; hearing, passive; listening, conscious; hearing, unconscious, in passing. So for someone to listen, of course, person must have an ear. This is the similarity that two of them share. For you to listen or for you to hear, you must have an ear. That's why we have hearing. You must have an ear, obviously. So for communication to thrive, for listening to thrive, the person must have an ear, and that ear must be active, not a faulty one, for you to grab all the sound waves. And for listening to also be effective, we have to make use of some of our visual abilities. That means we must maintain eye contact with the speaker. In fact, a good listener should maintain eye contact with the speaker, because that's be very easy for the speaker to pass across his or her message directly. So if your eyes are off there, it is most likely that your mind also is off there. Also, you must have interest. For listening to occur, there must be interest in the subject matter. There must be interest in the subject matter. Let's take, for instance, you have a listener that doesn't like football, and you go on and on about Ronaldinho, how they pass the ball. The person will just start sleeping because he's not interested. She's not interested of your football thing. And when you go about a topic that the person is interested, let's say fashion, you say, oh, I love the slit skirt, I love the kimono, the gown. Wow, the person is already alert. So you must have some form of interest in the subject for you to actively listen, effectively listen. You must have interest in the subject matter. Unlike hearing, you don't have to have interest. Once you have an ear, as you're passing along the road and the song is playing, just you have no choice but to listen. If somebody is talking about the president or the governor and is saying things that are hurtful, you have to listen. If somebody is using vain words, someone is using abusive words, you have to just hear it, because you don't have a choice, because you have an active ear. So you must have interest in the subject matter. You must be conscious, and it is an active ability. Sorry, an active act. So you must use your visual abilities. That means your eyes must be in place. Unlike hearing, that is passive and unconscious, and you can hear in passing. But all of these must point back to what? Meaning. Meaning is the most important. That is why we are learning basic communication skills, for us to make meaning. So today we've talked about listening and hearing, and how both of them are slightly different, even if they both involve the ear. One is active, the other is passive. So all of these help us to make meaning. So the next point will go down to speaking. So when you're done listening, you try to replicate those sounds that you must have heard in sound waves. So speaking involves sound waves. So this is a technical ability, unlike listening. This is a bit technical ability, unlike listening. So it's very technical. So for you to speak, obviously, you have to first of all listen. That's why we learn listening first. So when you speak, you're speaking out of what you've heard from the environment. So you're picking up sound waves from the environment. Let's take a child, for instance. Let's say the father of the child is from Hausa, the mother of the child is from Ibibio. These are all native tribes in Nigeria. The father is Hausa, the mother is Ibibio. Then the maid, let's say the maid is Igbo. And the family stays in Germany. That means they speak German in the environment and in school. So what language do you think the child is going to speak? So language. What language do you think this child is going to speak? Father, Hausa speaking. Mother, Ibibio speaking. Maid, Igbo speaking. And school, German speaking. What language do you think the child is going to acquire? That is the point, because the child is listening to basically all of these languages. So mostly the child might acquire no language. The child might speak no language because the child will be obviously confused. The father speaks in Hausa, the mother speaks in Ibibio, the maid speaks in Igbo, and the child spends most time at school. So the child obviously learns in German. When he comes home, he hears the mom speak Ibibio, the maid speak Igbo. So that's be very hard for the child to acquire a language. That's why we say listening is very important. So for speaking to thrive effectively, that means that individual must have effectively listened. So for this child, this is a very pertinent question. I think that would be for us to answer in the comment section. So for this child, what language do you think this child is going to acquire? A child with a Hausa speaking father and a Ibibio speaking mother, a maid that speaks Igbo, and they all live in Germany. That means the child schools in Germany and learns in German. So what language do you think this child is going to acquire? That should be our question. So if you have your answers, just pop them down in the comment section. So let's go back to speaking. So speaking involves, sorry about that. Speaking involves a process of speaking involves a process that has to do with the voice. And what happens to the voice? Sounds. So when you speak, what do you release? When you speak, you release sound waves. And these sound waves go from the mouth of the speaker down to the ears. From the mouth down, the waves go down to the ears. So mouth of speaker, ears of listener. That's why when we learn speaking, it is deeply contrasted with listening. So most time I'm making reference to listening and listening. So, excuse me, the speaker releases the sound waves that go straight to the ears of the listener. So the speaker is known as the encoder, and the listener is known as the decoder. So the speaker encodes. So the major thing about these two terms are what? Code. These are the major points of these two terms. So that means when we speak, these sound waves that we release are codes. Because if I say, for instance, let's take spaghetti. If I say spaghetti, or let's say rice. If I say rice, this is an English word. And someone says otali. This is an Igbo word. And let's say I'm speaking to a German audience. I don't know why I like Germany so much. A German audience. And I say rice. And I say utali. That means I'm saying codes that are not what? Decoded. Like the listeners cannot decode these codes because they are not conversant with these terms. What is rice to a German man? What is utali to a German man? He or she is not conversant with all of these terms. But if I say something in German, of course, this German audience would obviously grasp that thing I'm saying very easily because I am speaking in that language. So for speaking to thrive, there is something they call mutual intelligibility. I hope I got that spelling right. Intelligibility. Yeah. There must be mutual intelligibility. That means the two languages in question must be mutually exclusive. That means I must understand what you're saying. You also must understand what I'm saying. Else I'll just think to myself. I can't just go on and on and on. Someone just a French speaker comes and tell me, I'll just be smiling at the person because I don't know what that means. Or if a person asks me, how are you doing or something, I would respond because I'm English speaking. So for speaking to thrive, there must be mutual intelligibility between the speaker or the encoder and the listener or the decoder. So we're done with listening and we're almost done with speaking. So we've said that listening is what? Active. We said it is conscious. We said that it must involve visual abilities, and hearing is passive and unconscious. Now speaking, we've said something about speaking. What do you say about speaking? Speaking involves the mouth, it involves sound waves, it must involve the speaker, or the encoder, and down to the decoder, which is also the listener. And we've also said that the language or the languages that are going to be spoken must be mutually intelligible. That means I must understand you as a speaker, you must understand me as a listener. So for us to effectively communicate, there must be the concept of mutual intelligibility. So we're done with listening and we're done with speaking.